It's election day. It's election day. It's election day. It's election day. Ha! Board up your stores. Get some grenades. Throw some at people you don't like. Yeah, today's the day of reckoning, isn't it? Everybody's just gonna spontaneously combust. The earth is just gonna burst into flames. The oceans are gonna rise. There's gonna be sharknadoes ripping up our cities. Yeah. Well, this is the kind of world that we get when we choose to be guided by our fears. When we choose to let our fears take hold of us. When we choose to look at things that we don't like in the outside world and spew our vitriol, our poison, our toxicity, our charged negative energy that shows up in anger, rage, frustration, and just blast it out like laser shockwave beams into the environment and at everybody in the environment. You know, the fear response is a legitimate response, but not when it's a complete and total takeover, that we're constantly in this heightened state of fear, anxiety, depression, worry, unease, a feeling of hopelessness, upset, sad. And why? Why have we come to feel this way, to be this way? And we can, as I've said many times on the show, it's these institutions, these things that we imbue with magical powers to preside over us with benevolent intentions and supposed oversight and supposed laws and checks and balances and all these abstract ideas, these theories, these general consensus agreements that we make in our energetic matrix of existence, our spider web of existence. But we participate in it. We participate in it, and some of us love to participate in it. Some people just really, maybe unconsciously so, most likely, love the drama, the thrill, the team sport. But we don't really love it. It's a familiarity to us. It's a particular kind of conditioning that we've come to accept that drives us, and we function in a particular kind of way. And we're used to that way. We know that way. And when we think of other ways of operating, it seems almost outlandish to us because we can't think about it. We can't conceptualize it. And this way of being isn't just from us. This way of being didn't just occur with us. This is an epigenetic trauma story playing out in our time, live in our time, right here, right now. This game is live and activated. And I have to say, it has been disheartening to see so many people get captured by the mainstream status quo fear story. Because whether we realize it or not, it's infecting us. It's infecting me. It's probably infecting you. None of us are really free from it because the energy, that negative charged fear energy, is palpable in the environment. And it can present itself as safety. It can present itself as being sanitary. It can present itself in a number of different ways. But nonetheless, it's still coming from this place of fear. And I don't know, this podcast is about, until we learn how to evolve past this and work through this, and heal this trauma and go into our shadows and unpack what's there and then try and integrate it into our world, we're not really ever going to make any change. It doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter who's in the Senate, in the House. These things don't really matter. This is we're trying to plug in a lightning port iPhone charger into a first generation iPhone. It's not going in. It's not fitting anymore. It's not working. And there's certain things in our world that we all agree, if it's not working, it should be improved upon. Right? But we seem to sort of exclude the government, big, all caps, the government, this institution of power. We seem to sort of forget, or we just exclude questioning the premise of the game. We're questioning how we relate to power, how we operate under a system that uses force, coercion, violence, murder, theft, kidnapping, imprisonment, manipulation, lots of different tactics being deployed. As long as we stand for that and we allow that and we accept that and we think that that is okay, we're not going to change anything for the better in any real major fundamental way. A lot of things that we want to have happen, let's just take ending the war on drugs, for example. That can be easily done. But we are fooled and tricked into thinking that, it's this thing that we have to, there's all this effort and energy and things that we need to do in order to get that to change. But that's not the case. It's like if the federal government is presiding over us, it should be able to say within an instant, the war on drugs is wrong, it's evil, it's immoral, it's not right, it's not fair, it's harsh, it's cruel. Done. No more. Let's get rid of it. And we don't need to make this such a, every single election season, they're always talking about the same things. You can go on YouTube, watch election debates between, like Dukakis and Reagan and Bush and, all the Clinton and even Obama and Hillary. Go back, watch. What are they talking about? Jobs, healthcare, taxes, a little bit maybe about war. But not about the fundamental role of power in our world and how to wield power and what power should do and how it should behave and how there's many different ways to get things accomplished other than having a system that we relying on this same system and just, it's like an old car and you keep putting, making fixes to it and improving. It's like eventually it's not going to go anymore. And by the time, you're driving this old car for such a long period of time, and then all of a sudden there's like flying cars and jetpacks, and it's like, okay, well, clearly there's other ways of transportation. Innovation is being made. So we completely accept innovation when it comes to things like, a phone used to be a thing that you went to and it had a plug in the wall and it got the electricity from the plug in the wall, from the grid, from the poles outside and the wires and everything. And then it goes into the phone and then you have a cord and the electricity goes through that cord and then you talk on the phone and you could call someone. And now we basically have these magic computers in our pockets where we can see the entire world 24/7, 365. For the first time that we know of, that we can be literally connected to each other and know what's happening anywhere in the world at any time. And maybe not know exactly what's happening, but get an idea. Find out things are happening. And we now have access to the knowledge that things are happening all around the world every second of the day. And we have a device in our pocket that is like a magical device that says, hey, check it out. Check out the world. What's going on in the world, in the entire world? What's happening? I mean, that's pretty appealing. It's pretty appealing. And we're all like, yeah, cool. Innovation in the telephone. We accept that. We allow that. We approve that. And you can make the case that like, oh, well, it's tearing us apart and all this kind of stuff and it's terrible, whatever. But it's just a necessary phase that we need to go through. This has never happened before. We were all living at a party of like, 50 people. Now the party has like 8,000 people, and we're just like, all right, cool. We want to keep the party going, but like, how do we? This is wild. This is crazy. I never been with this many people before, and that's what the internet is doing to us. We're literally interacting with more diversity and more novelty than ever before. Even though if you say that we're living in more of these algorithm-driven, preference-shaped bubble worlds, at least we're being exposed to other people in that realm as well, and the internet wasn't always like that. There were the good stages of the internet when it was really totally, completely open and free. And, you could Google something and the top results wouldn't be CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. You'd have all these amazing blogs and outlets to go to. And so navigating this space, it's like you're at a party and there's a bunch of people walking around being like, someone spills something in the kitchen. They go, hey, did you hear like he spilt the whole keg of beer and, we got to get a new one. There's no more beer left. And then someone's like, oh yeah, that's shit. That sucks. And then, it's like that game of telephone and telephone. Yeah. That was my attempt at a Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, it's like a telephonosaurus Rex. Yes. But it's like playing that game telephone where the information travels around and it goes to so many people that it starts to be interpreted in different ways. So before, when we were at the party and it was 50 people, it was like, oh, cool. We could, everybody kind of knows what's going on and we can all, see, and everybody really knows each other. Now it's 8,000 people and it's like, we don't know what the fuck's going on. We don't know what's true, what's not true. So but this, I believe that this is just a necessary phase in our development to relearn our communal nature and relearn our skills of discernment, critical thinking, communication, and right now it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. But I would argue that the government knows, like the government, the entire power structure, not the administrations. And, when I say the government, I also mean, the alphabet agencies who, they are the real rulers of the land. They run the country. They're one of them, other than the Federal Reserve Bank and other organizations outside of what we think of as the government. It's amazing. Most people don't even know what the Federal Reserve Bank is. I guess I should probably talk about that a little bit more. But the point is that, as George Carlin says, the real rulers of this country, they're the ones that own everything. They own all the land. They own all the banks. They're the owners. And the owners use the government as a structure to lean on in order to pull those levers, use that weapon, use that gun. It's like there's a gun in the room and someone is going to grab at that gun and use it. Although, so what I guess what I'm arguing is, wouldn't it be great if we were just in a room without a gun? Yeah, we're still going to we might have problems. We might have physical altercations, but no one's going to get shot and killed. You know, as much as the left likes to talk about gun control, I mean, the number one gun control that we need to have is the gun of the government. The gun of the government being the government as an institution that uses violence and force and threats and intimidation to achieve its aims and its goals and its means, its purpose. Because that is just going to be used by the people in the land that play the best game to the dominant economic structure narrative, the dominant perverse incentive structure that we have that looks at the world and all of its people in it all as resources, people included, to extract things out of, to make and build things for. For who? For them. For them. You know, it's like all the way that it functions is, by its very nature, is like whoever can reward the kings and queens are going to be rewarded themselves. Whatever serves their particular way of seeing the world is handsomely rewarded. Things that aren't handsomely rewarded are things that challenge their claim to rule over our land, our minds, our bodies, our souls. And when I say they, it's not necessarily people, although people are in that group. When I say they, I mean the people and the institutions that have baked in core values that align with a predatory way of living life, a way of life that is of taking, of destruction, of domination, of winning over somebody else, of being right. And it's sad to say, but that's kind of the prevailing ideology of our land. The prevailing ideology of our land seems to be, they're going to get theirs, karma, bitch. We're going to get ours. You're going to get what you deserve. Oh, he didn't pay his taxes. Make him, he's got to pay more of his taxes. It's instead of this, it's very like everybody's pointing a finger at somebody else. Even I myself would point a finger at the ideas that I'm talking about, right? Like there's even a little projection of my internal story that is being cast upon my judgment of power structures and how they operate. And I'm aware of that. I try and question that and contend with that at certain times. Is it just easier to just sort of go with the flow, right? Like Sebastian Maniscalco has this great bit where he talks about, when you're at the gym and there's their guy that's there and he's on the treadmill sprinting like 12 miles an hour as fast as he can, doing interval sprints and then jumping off to the side and like huffing and puffing. And Sebastian's got this great Seinfeldian mind, and he just comes out and he's like, why don't you just do what we're doing? Just do the regular thing that everyone else is doing. Don't do your weird workout. Come on, just fall in line with everybody. And like, it's humorous, and I also understand that. There's a certain kind of feeling of like solidarity or just a certain kind of vibe that's been established. And then you get somebody else coming in, going off the walls, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And what does that bring up in us? What does that say? Why does that trigger us, right? It's like, that's worth investigating. Sometimes you can just chalk it up to like, guy's an asshole, guy's a jerk, guy's annoying, whatever, something like that. But there is something that comes up inside of us as well. But the prevailing ideology of our land seems to be that people are wanting somebody to come and save us, wanting someone to do something to fix something, because everything's going to shit. And it's like, oh man, everything's going to shit. It sucks. Like, yeah, we got to do something. We got to vote. We got to pick someone to do something. We got to pick a side. We got to pick a team. And it's like, well, clearly, before the pandemic, I did a podcast about the new normal and how, this is an opportunity for us to sort of really inspect the fundamental structures of the machine that we find ourselves operating within. And instead, what I see is more people just going back to the team sport, the pick the sides, the system that has failed and failed time and time and time and time again. If the government was a private entity that was selling goods and services, and its job was to provide happiness and safety and security and health and wellness and, lead with inspiration and all these things, it has failed miserably on that. And it's not just Donald Trump. It's every single president that has ever come before him. I would argue that probably, we act like a lot of the delusion in this country is that we pretend that we lived, there was this like noble time of justice and liberty and freedom, and people were, and it's like, that's bullshit. The second that the ink dried on the Constitution, we were already, a tyranny. We were already becoming the very thing that we had rebelled against, which is a very common theme in a lot of mythology and stories, becoming that which with what you're fighting against, becoming that thing. As Philip K. Dick would say, be fighting against it and becoming infected by its derangement. Which is one of the reasons why I love the Dark Knight so much, is because Batman really contends with that. That's Joker's main aim, is to bring him down to his level. And it's an amazing movie with so many amazing metaphors and messages. And I just find that that's where we find ourselves at, So 23 minutes into the podcast, and I haven't announced really that I'm recording this at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, November 3rd, Election Day. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's completely unpredictable. I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't matter if Trump or Biden wins. It doesn't matter. And there's a lot of people out there that will disagree with me, but there's a lot of people that think, and I saw this happen when Obama was elected president. I saw all of my peers of like anti-war, anti-spying, like just activated activists sort of go away and not be like as loud as they were during the Bush administrations. And I think, honestly, coming from this place of living in fear and projecting into the outside world, the left has projected Donald Trump to be this insanely, cartoonishly evil villain that they could fill with all of their, problems and their rage and their anger. And on top of that, he is a decrepit, disgusting, horrific human being, but he's also a con artist, and he's also a trickster. And he's also just a huge, just everything that America was built on. And we hate that. We hate it. We're like, look at what we value. Look at what this is what it is. All this materialistic, gaudy, fake tan, fake hair, gold shit everywhere, buildings, bragging about winning and how well we do and how much money we make and all this stuff. That's what America was built on. And that's what we've all grown up with. And we're sick of it. We're like, this is disgusting. Get it out of here. But just like in a bad trip, when something bad comes up, we can't push it away. We have to go into it. And we have to look at it. We have to inspect it. We have to say, why is this upsetting me so much? The things he says, the way he talks, the way he speaks, but everything that he represents. And it's everything that we hate about our shadow, our darkest places. And it's so much easier to project that on somebody else. While he is those things, we also have to be able to kind of examine the totality of the scope of the picture. And I fear that, if Biden wins, that people will just go back to sleep. And Trump's name for him, Sleepy Joe, perfect, because that's what the entire enraged, frantic, hysterical, crying, scared left is desperately wanting. They're like, please get me out of this bad trip. Instead of confronting it, instead of looking at it, instead of facing it, instead of moving through it, instead of examining all the angles of it, just let me get the hell out of this bad trip. And, Joe Biden is like fucking Thorzine, just like come in and sedate you and like, oh, okay. Oh, good. All right. That's better now. We have someone that's not aesthetically unpleasing to look at, and someone that doesn't speak like a buffoon, and someone that doesn't, represent all of these like materialistic, consumerist ego values. Oh yeah, Joe Biden, he's safe. He's a government robot. It's fine. We can go back to sleep. Let's relax. Oh, it was just a dream. Oh, tell me a new story. And then everyone can go back to, fucking complaining about all the other shit, whatever. And, if Trump wins, then everybody's going to explode and go into a crying frenzy. And you're going to see all this stuff on social media is going to be posting, oh my God, like, I am disappointed in my country. I can't believe how dare I am sad to be an American. Maybe hashtag sad to be an American today. Like, just ashamed of my country. Hashtag the ashamed of my country challenge. People are going to be going on, seeing how long you can continuously cry for. I mean, this is crazy that something like this affects us in such a huge way. That we're letting it affect us in such a huge way, that we're giving it our power, we're giving it our attention, we're giving it our time, we're giving it our money, we're giving it our energy, we're giving it our lives. And it's like, for what? We're trapped in this game and we can't see that it's a game. We can't see the forest for the trees. We can't see the water as the fish. We don't get it. All the debates, all the issues, all the things, all the whatever, this and that, the scandals and the he said this, it's all a fucking theater play. It is a magnificent theater play. And it's got everybody whipped and spun and rattled and frazzled and dazzled and angry and righteous and proud. And all we keep doing is getting on that field and playing the same game and getting back on that field and playing the same game. Meanwhile, everybody's getting head injuries and fucking, breaking bones and bleeding from the ears. Like, this game might be a little dangerous. This game might not be so good. It's not so fun anymore. Maybe there's a different way. Trying to make a football analogy there, I guess, but didn't really work too well. But I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know whatever happens in this post-truth, mimetic warfare, tribal narrative, aggressive, hostile mentality of our time, nothing is going to be calm and smooth and easy. I could see it now. The media, the agenda setting media, corporate press narrative is going to be, whether it's Biden or Trump, they're going to do something, something's going to happen. They're going to be like, well, ballots weren't counted, or we found the things, there was a fire here, there was like a shooting, or there was like a thing, there was a bomb threat, or there was a hacking, and some senator was involved. They'll sacrifice some person, throw them under the bus, plant something, frame something, both sides. The highly, highly weaponized environment. It's not going to just be like normal, there's no matter who wins, something wild is going to happen. And that's going to be the new driving narrative that's going to be 24/7 in the corporate press, in the mainstream media and social media, constant 24/7 narrative of this chaos story. Everyone's going to be up in arms, enraged, in so much fear. There'll probably be violence. There'll probably be looting. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this time, don't you think? I mean, imagine being in a small tribal setting, and someone there, you're one of your leaders or whoever, it just keeps saying like, oh yeah, the next chief that's going to become chief, there might be a lot of craziness, there might be a lot of wild stuff happening. It's like, wouldn't you think that would sort of bake some fear into you, and all of a sudden shape the way that you're feeling and thinking, because these vibratory frequencies are being inserted into your human sensory input meat costume, and being like, oh, okay, maybe possible danger. Keep on the lookout. All right, maybe something's going to happen. Okay. And you're just, spidey sense tingling the whole time. After it's repeated, after people are boarding up stores, people are doing this. Oh, gun sales are back on. It's like they're basically marketing a civil war. This is like we've been living through like a major like marketing campaign for civil war. So, a wise leadership in a healthy world, and if we were functioning and living properly in a healthy reality without these perverse incentive structures guiding us in these debased, moral foundations, then, it would be like, hey, like, I hope that the new person is fantastic, and there'd just be this more positive atmosphere. And you can't, like I said, you can't just blame this on Trump. Trump is a symptom of the toxicity that has been plaguing us for a very long time. The illusion of what the state is under Barack Obama was masterfully hidden, because he was fantastic as an orator, as a presenter. His appearance, his aesthetics, the way he talked, the way that he interacted with people, the way he looked, everything about him was the perfect paint job for the monstrous, Leviathan tentacles and beastly like nature of the state, the true nature of what the idea of the state is, the state at its very core fundamental rawness. Obama was fantastic at covering that up, and he still got sniped by, well, no pun intended, but with WikiLeaks, with Julian Assange, with Edward Snowden, with Jeremy Scahill, with Glenn Greenwald, with, there was a lot that happened under Obama that wasn't so good. Wasn't good. Wasn't really good. Oh yeah, we definitely tortured some folks. Ha ha ha. At the what was the press dinner? I forget what it's called. The one. It's they have a comedian there. The White House press dinner or whatever. And he's like, yeah, guys, I forget the joke, but he's like, they want to go out with Sasha and Malia. Well, I got 2 words for you. Drone strike. You think I'm kidding? Ha ha ha. It's like, meanwhile, we're launching ridiculous amounts of drone strikes all over the Middle East, troops occupying Afghanistan, Iraq still going on. Like, it's just like, it was insane. And then torturing people at Guantanamo Bay, spying on people, like all this stuff. And where's the media to be exposing all this stuff? And it really took, I guess it was that Edward Snowden thing with Glenn Greenwald, that it really took that to like the media was like, well, we have fucking no choice. We have to report on this. This is so massive. Someone's going to. And then how do you do like damage control around that? It's all, the media is just, it's just the the stage for these actors to play on. It's the stage for them to frame and set and light how these puppet actors go on and sell us these illusions. I mean, we want to believe in like a charismatic leader that's going to come along and like right the wrongs of the world and fix things up. I mean, all of our stories tell of this. All these hero narratives, these hero stories tell of this. It's like, there's a great leader out there and they're going to show us the way. And you know what? That is true. But like the people that I follow are a lot of like authors and thinkers and podcasters and comedians. And so to me, they're sort of my leaders. They're not these elected officials, and certainly not these unelected officials that are operating within the deep state establishment of the real government, essentially. I used to say that it was like the government is like and I don't know how many people get this, but in New York they have bodegas, and they're usually, like they're owned by people in the neighborhood, local people, and you go in and like a Dominican or Puerto Rican, you go in and like they have like empanadas and all kinds of, and then there's like guys playing dice in the back, but the front facing store, they're selling stuff. They got soda, they got food, and in the back they're running games, bookieing, betting, things like that. And that's exactly how the government operates as well. It's like there's two functions to it. And a lot of us are just focused on this one function, and not even this one function, but the one person that occupies a seat of like that nobody should have. Nobody should be there. We shouldn't have one guy in charge of like what does that even like what does that even mean? It's like this is such a fucking stage play illusion. And again, like I said, we have to really start to challenge more of what we deem to be worth our time, energy, and attention. And we don't necessarily have to give it to this one dominant story, of our land. And I see so many people out there that are very invested in that. But it's never really going to yield the kind of fruit that we want it to. And I know that this kind of thinking is very radical, is very fringe, but it's really not when you think about it. And this is why I think that, we really, as human beings, we really need to get reminders that we are all connected here, and that, that it is such a gift to be alive. And there's so many incredibly fun things that we can do. Remember fun? There's so many fun things that we can do outside of sitting behind screens. There's, the chance encounters that you bump into somebody and something happens, or, that you're out and someone, someone invites you to a party or something, you meet some new friends. There's so many fun and exciting possibilities that we have in front of us to be human beings, fully expressed, connected, loving, empathetic, compassionate, curious, creative, collaborative human beings. That sometimes it's going to take a lot of turmoil and suffering and harshness to wake up to that for a lot of people. Because some people in some places, I mean most people in most places have just been beaten down for so long, and all of our ancestral lines, just so much baggage, so much trauma. Everyone in the world, that this is a growing pain of our civilization, of what we are as human beings on this earth. And I believe that it's about how we navigate this darkness that's going to decide what comes out on the other side. It's how well we're able to go into the collective shadow, the collective darkness, and go into the wounds and go into the trauma and sit with it and be there and unpack it slowly and integrate it and keep going and keep going. Because we can scream and yell and we can vote and we can, do all these kinds of things, but we're not going to have a change unless we have a real fundamental change of our souls, of our spirits, of our consciousness, of why we're here and what we're capable of doing and being and feeling. And those of us fortunate to have experiences of ecstatic bliss, of rapture, of joy, of wonder, of play, of euphoria, of non-dual, transcendental, liminal magic. Those of us that have had these experiences know that this is possible for a human being. That this, that the sort of values that we have as people to want to engage in loving, fun, healing activities. We have to be, I think that we have the ability to come together to really fully formulate those things outside of this toxic apparatus, this toxic environment that is just plaguing us with their toxicity, with their fear stories, and with all the arrangements and agreements that they make and the promises and the, everything, the negotiations, until we get to a point where we have a more respectful environment. But I guess I would say that it starts with us. And this is something that I have been, struggling with and dealing with, because my inner nature is to be like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? Why, for me to get angry and for me to get mad and for me to get upset and for me to try and make a clever point or a logical argument or something like that. And it's just, as I've grown and done more of my own work and just had more experiences, I understand that that's not an effective strategy. And I want to hear why people think the way they do. I want to be able to have compassion and sit with people when they tell me things that conflict with the way that I see the world. And I believe that that's the way. That's the way forward. The way forward is not to silence, not to smack down, not to ridicule, not to, defame, to trick, to manipulate, to dominate, to coerce, to have, to insert yourself over, but to open up and ask questions and get a sense of this person's story and who they are. Unfortunately, it's difficult to do that on social media when we have a party of 8,000 people, as I was saying before. But we can have some impact and we can do something. And as much as I have these strongly held beliefs about the way in which I see the world and the information that I've taken in, the experiences that I've had, the things I've read and looked at, and the way that I feel, this combination of getting a sense for what my worldview is, I do feel like that it is a good direction to go in. And I feel pretty confident in talking about this as a way that is possible and could work and could be best for all of us. But I also am not 100% certain. And I want to understand why other people would think that it would be incorrect or that it would be not good. And I want to see why other people think the way they do. So the long and short of it is just saying that I think we can get through this if we navigate the chaos smoothly. And unfortunately, I don't really see that happening because everything leading up to this point has shown that it's really, really difficult to do that. But What I'm saying is that we can have a path to a better world, to a society that functions better, but really it has to start with us. And unfortunately, maybe it has to get even darker before we wake up and realize, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? Like, what? This is crazy. What are we doing? You know, it's like doing something crazy at a night when you're loaded, drunk, and you're like, the next day, I can't believe I did that. I have a feeling that we're going to wake up after a period of time in that state and go, holy shit, what the hell were we doing? And maybe that will be future generations that will look back and just go, wow, that was wild. I can't believe human beings like went through that and did that. But the light is here. As Rust says at the end of one of the best shows on it ever, True Detective, when Marty goes and sees him at the hospital at the end, spoiler alert, Matthew McConaughey's character, and he's talking about looking up at the stars and seeing all the darkness, and Marty's like, yeah, I guess the darkness is winning. And there's like a few stars in the sky, and he looks up and he goes, yeah, Matthew McConaughey's character says, yeah, but at one point there was only darkness. So, you know, I think the light's got a fighting chance, or the light's winning. He switches his perspective on it. Instead of looking at it as like, oh my God, look at how much darkness there is. It's like, yeah, but at one time there was only darkness, and there's a little bit of light, and that's awesome. And that's sort of the way that I sort of see things, is that Daniel Schmachtenberger, who I like a lot, puts it this way. We're in a point where we have rivalrous games and exponential tech, and doesn't look like we're going to be slowing down on the tech. And when we have that, what we have is a self-terminating civilization. We can't keep having the same kinds of structures and incentive structures and games that we play, economic games, value system games, religious games, government games. You know, we can't keep competing and playing in that particular way, in one dominant function, in the way in which has been the way that we've been playing. We can't keep playing that way while we're developing all kinds of technology that is making the world a smaller place, and also developing really crazy, you know, weaponry or robots that take away a lot of people's jobs and this kind of stuff. It's like, we're going to blow ourselves up. Something's going to burst. Our level of consciousness has not evolved to the level of our technology. And that's not good. So I would say that it's a crucial time for us to understand how we can how we can do things better, and how we can look outside of the corroded, toxic, mainstream narrative establishments and structures and institutions, and really start thinking about other ways in which we could build things that are going to be appealing alternatives. And, you know, I don't know what that looks like, but I just know that is a way forward. As far as I can see, a way forward is a way that we start respecting each other for our differences and allow each other to operate in a functional space of fun and play and love, because this world can be amazing. This world can be ecstatic. This world can be joyful. It doesn't have to be the way it is. There are other ways of doing things, but we're not going to get there with a presidential election. This isn't going to be the thing that flips the switch. The promises of government, of politicians over the years has only manifested us to this point now, where we're in this dire circumstance, right? The most important election ever. But this is not it. So who knows what's going to happen, but I do think that everything is going to be fine, but maybe not right away, but it will be eventually. Whenever we have the disparity that exists, where certain people that occupy high positions of power have so much control and so much more resources and power than the majority of people that are just trying to have a good life, trying to just make sure that they're healthy, that they feel good, and that they could be with their families and love their families and love their friends and have good times and be with their partners, their husbands and their wives, and have joyous lives. But what we see is so much suffering. And I would argue that the majority of this suffering has come from the way in which we choose to relate to each other, the way in which we choose to relate to the earth, to the environment, and to this reality. The way in which we value existence itself. And these are big, fundamental questions, metaphysical questions that don't get introduced in debates. This isn't in politics, right? This is outside. Politics is a narrow game that is manufactured and curated to only have this little range of allowable thought, opinion, and expression. And, one of the things that Donald Trump did was sort of shatter that matrix a little bit, was sort of disrupt what it means to be a member of the state and expose the media, which is the propaganda arm of the state, which is, a huge force for manipulation and control in our world. The corporate agenda setting media. So I just hope that as a species that we can move in a direction where we start to experiment with new ways of doing things that have never been done before, without the tactics, strategies of the past, but with new ways of the future. New incentive structures, new systems, new agreements, new energy exchanges of money and labor and time. More, like what Charles Eisenstein talks about, a gift economy, or like a sharing economy. Stephen Johnson in his book Future Perfect talks about decentralized, local, peer-to-peer sharing networks. We can develop these networks. We can use this wonderful thing called the internet for something good. And the reason why I'm talking about it in this way is because I feel that my part is to sort of just try and spread this message to kind of turn people onto these ideas and get people thinking in new and different ways and start provoking some thought, because I don't know what's to come of that, but it's already happening. And we just need a larger amount of people involved in order to really turn this ship around. And by putting people into the dying political structure, it doesn't do it. And it's not even like we're putting people in. It's like someone bought it and someone else has been in it for like 50 years. Biden and Trump, I'm referring to. So it's we need to move into a new direction. This can't be the pinnacle of our creative efforts, Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And what that says and what that represents and what they say and what they represent and their followers believe. This can't be the pinnacle of our human capacity for intelligent, creative collaboration on making the world more like the one that we want. And so I don't know, maybe we have to start groups, maybe we have to start meetings to brainstorm and come up with ideas about how we can solve problems that are affecting us in our areas, and be local and be decentralized, where we're collaborating and sharing information with other people. But it has to start with what we value. It has to start with seeing things for what they are, seeing the true nature of power and how power operates in our world, seeing the true nature of fear and love and good and evil and light and dark, and seeing these true, raw, bare bones elements and how they play out and how we relate to them and how we identify with them and where they are in us and where we're projecting them out on the others, and what we're building in the world and what we're creating and how we're promoting it or sharing it, and what are we all contributing to the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, or are we also participating and perpetuating things that we don't want, simply just by giving them energy, simply just by feeding them, like that little story about the two wolves within you, and one of them grows. Well, which one? The one that you feed, the one that you feed, the thing that you give your time, energy, and attention to. And I love giving my time, energy, and attention to fun. I love giving my time, energy, and attention to being with friends, laughing, having a good time, smoking a joint, maybe having a really good beer, having some good food, good laughs, going to a concert, going to a show, dancing, doing psychedelic work, doing psychedelics recreationally, just laughing and loving, being romantic with my partner, loving her, treating her, going away with her, doing things with her, having fun, skinny dipping in alpine lakes with her, and just this whole life can be amazing. Whatever it is that you're engaging with, or what you're doing for fun, for pleasure, for excitement, it's like we can have more of that. Our lives don't just, it's like we're only allowed to live our lives 2 days a week and 2 extra weeks a year, or whatever, the kind of standard work vacation schedule type thing is. But we get to completely own and take over our lives if we want to. And I think that there has to be some kind of awakening within people to have the realization that there's other ways, there's choices that we can make, and there's other ways to do things, and that we have to look at how much fear and anger and terror that comes up for us, and see, where is that really coming from? Where is it coming from? Is it because you're just really upset that ExxonMobil is doing some fucked up shit, and you just think that they're a bunch of pricks and you hate them? All right, great. Like, what are we going to do to actually rewrite the code that we all function in, so that we don't produce and allow things like this to take over and do, spill oil and extract things and, all that kind of stuff? I mean, as one example, right? So I do think that there is a sense of laziness on a lot of us, that we want somebody else to do something, and we can do something. And I can do more, and you can do more. We can all do more. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that. Sometimes I'm in despair and I just say, fuck it, who cares? There's no point. Nothing's going to change, right? And then I'll have someone say, hey, no, you're onto something. Keep this alive. Like, keep doing this. Keep thinking about these things. Keep talking about it. And I was like, okay, well, that feels good to have that reminder. And I believe that we all really need that environment of positive reinforcement, that environment of inspiration, that, and on this day right now, this election day, I feel so much like tension and fear, especially on social media, and also a lot of projecting of hopes, right? A lot of people really proud that they voted, and they voted for Joe Biden, and we're going to get this asshole out. But again, Trump is just a symptom of the problem. When Joe Biden wins the presidency, we can't fall back asleep. We have to stay engaged, but this time engaged in the real issues here. The real nature of how this power, this gun that we're allowing people to operate, is being pointed and being used. And find out, hey, maybe this isn't so good. Maybe this isn't really working. So I guess that would be my hope, would be that Joe Biden wins, and then everybody is still remains active and paying attention to the political landscape and realizes, oh, it doesn't matter who's in office, the same shitty shit happens. Yeah, that's what happened to me in 2010 with Obama. I was like, what? This guy's not really, I mean, he was like talking about all these change, like we were going to do all this great stuff. And then, didn't seem to really go that way. And, there's this, we would like to believe in this like system of government where you vote and there's checks and balances and rules and order and these noble ideas and justice and liberty. And it's like, it just isn't that. Sure, it would be nice if it was that, but it's not. It's not. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. This is now it's 3:29 p.m. and on November 3rd, and whatever happens, it's going to be crazy, and there's going to be a ton of crazy shit that's going to happen throughout the world, and there's it's going to be turbulent, and I imagine that we'll probably have some kind of like major disruptions to the way of things, and a lot of unease and unrest, and hopefully we can pay attention this time to how we can make things better through love, through operating through love and through compassionate curiosity, truth, fairness, and happiness and joy and fun for everyone, for as many people as we can. Maybe that's delusional, maybe that's ridiculous to think, but fuck it, that's what I want. That's what I'm going to think. I think that the mind is very powerful, very powerful. We create our own realities, and those of us who are privileged enough to be able to have psychedelic experiences, altered state experiences, non-ordinary state experiences, privileged enough to eat delicious food and have access to information at the drop of a hat, and then use our voices to communicate that to the outside world. I think that we have a certain sense of duty, to walk that path as much as possible and dream that impossible dream, and whatever, just ignore people that say that's not realistic or whatever. Just focus on what you want. Focus on your dream of how you would like to be living in this world and operating in this life, and how it would be so nice for other people to be on that wavelength with you, because then we can all have a really fun time at this epic party called life now, reality now, joy experience, sensory experience, pleasure, fun, ease, not dis-ease, less tension. We can do it. We have the capacity to do it. All it takes is our time, our energy, our effort, and our attention in the right place, and learning to contend with the energies that reside within us, that want to yell, scream, impose our will, say that we're right, be morally superior, claim, some kind of victim role and, or rebel role, right? I used to play the fucking rebel role. Fuck it, man. Who cares? Rebel, atheist, rebel, existentialist, asshole. And, sometimes I dip into different identities here and there. I think we all do. But we need each other to be reminders. We need to remind each other of the vision of what we want to create, what we want to build in this world, how we want to love, what we want to experience, who we want to be. And it's not going to be handed to us, and no one's going to save us. And it doesn't matter who occupies this ridiculous seat of power that we all hallucinate has some kind of magical authority over us. We are the authority over ourselves. And there's no, grand method or system that's going to dictate what it's going to be for everybody. but it shows up in every moment. It shows up with every choice to love or to fear, with every choice to be compassionate and curious or empathetic or sympathize, or to be right, to be dominant, to control, and to always check that and have other people check it for us. Hey, do you think maybe you're operating out of love right now? Hey, thanks for the reminder. You're right, I slipped. And we need to remind each other. We're built, we're wired as these beings that forget and remember and forget and remember. Sometimes we remember, sometimes other people remind us, sometimes we remind other people. But we are infinite. And we can dance an incredible dance in this reality right now. With this, we can make an epic dance, an epic song. We can have an epic party. We really can. But it's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of difficulty, challenges, challenging who we thought we are, who we thought we were, who we, what we thought life was or is, how we relate to the environment, how we relate to each other. So, yeah, that's my dream, is to see a full, more and more people just waking up to their true power, fully empowered, creative, excited, operating from a place of abundance and love, and not being infected by the derangement of the empire, of the dominators, the ones that hold the most fear. They are the wardens or the guards, but they're still in prison. Yeah, they have a power role over us, but we're all in prison. And they're caging themselves up. They're lighting themselves on fire with the fire that they use. It's like in the Dark Crystal, like the Skeksis, they have to suck the life force out of the other guys. I forgot their name, but they become all like corroded and hunched over, and I've talked about this before, this kind of thing. But I hope that we can learn how to navigate the fallout of this election in a new and different way, and make different choices than we would make otherwise. Now, having said that, I do realize that there's a lot of sort of, agent provocateur, shill kind of, COINTELPRO type infiltration and, the corruption, all this kind of stuff. And I would just say, don't play into it all. Let's not attach to every single thing that we see and that we're being told. And, I know it's hard to do that. But, most people that I talk to, I say, hey, the stuff that you see on social media, the stuff that you see on TV, the stuff you hear in the mainstream media, like, do you see that? Do you feel that when you go out in your neighborhood, in your area? Like, a lot of people are like, no, not really. No, not really. No. So all this stuff is being, obviously used and heightened and weaponized to keep us in that constant response fear state. Something's going to happen, we're just we're just this like traumatized, in this traumatized state. And so we really need more compassion, more love, more empathy, more curiosity in order to navigate this space. All right, that's it for me. I guess I've said enough. I wasn't going to do like a election episode, like who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what the outcome's going to be, and what's that going to mean really, and the details and all this kind of stuff. But, I have been looking at lots of different sources and things, and some people think there's going to be power outages. Some people think there's going to be hacking with banks and you're not going to be able to get your money out, and other people think that crypto is going to skyrocket, and other people think that there's going to be riots and looting and murder, and a lot of people think that there's going to be tons of corruption and manipulation with the picks and all this kind of stuff. Who the hell knows? I'm sure it's going to be a wild story to live through. But the point of this episode was just saying that this is a story. And we're choosing to either participate in this story, or we're choosing to look at this story and say, yeah, nice with your whole, story here, but it's just we're sick of it. It's enough. We're going to create our own fucking story. So vote for yourself. Create your own story and find the others that are doing that as well. And let's actually participate, not by once every 4 years filling out somebody's name, but let's actually participate in reaching out to each other, collaborating with each other, reminding each other, creating with each other, and focusing on some things that we can do to try and free ourselves from the toxic realm of the fear story that dominates the world. Because that's the only way that we're going to evolve into a state of being that we envision to be like a near paradise. And I know that we're capable of doing that. I know that's possible. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you just enjoy it. Talk to you next time. Peace.